was a little kid, whenever I watched movie, I felt like, just like many people, I was affected by the movies from the States, especially the one about successful life and all that. But basically, I'd start to have the idea that I would have a better opportunity to succeed in life if I go to the States. I always thought that there's a better atmosphere for going after the stuff you want to work for, especially in Silicon Valley. So personally, my career dream is basically to become a game designer. I fell in love with video games when I was a little kid. The first time I went to an arcade place, I was just like so excited. I've never seen anything like that in my life. I learned English from playing games. The first English words that I learned are not apple, you, me, cat, dog, are just new games, options, load games, exit. Games has been the driving force of my life so far. And I wanted to make games. I was set up on mind to go to AAA studios in the States. There's hundreds of AAA studios making games, and I just want to be part of them. So MSU accepted me, and I was pretty happy. And I went to MSU. During the school times, I joined the lab. I was a senior designer in the lab. I led 2 projects. So everything was looking very well. And I was like, I'm so ready to start looking for jobs in the States. Rockstar, one of the biggest studios in the world actually, making games, decided to give me an interview, and I was super excited. And I was preparing for the interview. I had like notes and everywhere written on the walls. They decided to flew me to San Diego, which is where the studio was. Very promising. I got in. There were 7 rounds of interview. I talked to the programmer, to the designers, to the studio lead manager. At last, the HR came in. At this time, I still remember how she looked. Like, she was very excited, very happy. And I still remember how I felt. She said, "Congratulations, we think you're a fit. When can you start? What's your salary expectation?" And I was like, pretty much almost jumped. I was like, "Can I get a hug?" And she gave me a hug, and I was so excited. And then she's like, "You can start looking for apartments near the company now. Congratulations." And she shook my hand. And I was like, and I went back home. I called my parents. And I was like, this is like this is Rockstar. This is like one of the best studios in the world. So I thought I was set for life. I thought I was on the path to my dream. 2 weeks later, they called me and asked, "So actually, we never checked this. So what's your status? Are you a citizen or a permanent resident?" Actually, I am neither. I'm gonna need a work visa support. And they said, okay. We're gonna talk about that. We'll get back to you later. All right. And then things start to get uneasy, and I start to see signs of I start to feel like this is probably not going to be as good. And then 2 weeks later, they called and they said they found somebody with more experience, and they move on with them. So after I graduate, I need to find a job in 3 months. Otherwise, I have to go back to my country because the whole immigration system. But I was panicking. I was sending out resumes to all the game studios I could find. I got a couple of interviews. I failed the tests. I didn't get anything, so I was panicking. That's when I basically have to go back to China because I don't want to leave a bad record on my immigration history with the States, because maybe one day I'll go back. I don't know. I was pretty frustrated, honestly. I felt like I've wasted my life. I felt like, I'm going backwards in my life. Like now that I'm back, when I was back in China, my parents was pretty unhappy too. It was like, I was planning that, okay, I'm saving enough money, I'll pick my parents over, we're gonna drive in the number 1 highway in California to see all the views. And those all basically evaporated. We couldn't do that. One thing I really love about North America in general is the work-life balance and how people value personal interest. And then there's the whole overtime thing in China. People expected overtime a lot. They set it as a norm that people are supposed to work from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and 6 days a week. They call it 996. And I was already frustrated, and there was a huge culture shock because technically I've never really worked in China. Because right after college, I went to grad school and I got a job in the States. I never worked in China. So far in my life, I felt like I'm always on the move. I'm not happy where I am, want to be. I want to go to a different place, metaphorically, to fulfill what I want in my life. So I didn't bother, if you will, to get into a relationship because I know it's probably not going to work out. When I was in the States, the second semester in Michigan, my parents got really sick. My dad was having a very serious arthritis attack. In winter, he couldn't move. My mom was, she's highly short-sighted with her eye, and her retina fell off, so she had surgery. And I was not next to them, and back then I was still struggling with the assistantship in the second year because I couldn't afford the second year for grad school without assistantship. So that was when it was the most painful for me. And I went to California. I felt like I'm finally where I want to be. I was ready to settle down, and then the whole company shutdown thing happened and pushed me back to China. It kind of changed me a lot. It was very lonely at the beginning, and I kind of started to grow into this state that I don't get attached to the place I live. At the beginning, I felt like I'm never home. Then later on, I felt like it just like everywhere I stay, I felt like this is temporary. Which is why I still keep my TV's big box under my bed, because I know maybe one day I need to move it. But right now, I'm likely going to stay here for several years without worrying about that. But the mentality is already imprinted, and the biggest reason that I applied for express entry and come to Canada is because it's easy. After I found out about that, I was very excited. But also part of me was very scared because I've never been to Canada before, so I wasn't sure what I was getting myself into. But I told myself that I'm willing to take the risk. So it was a hard decision for me, but I decided to make the jump because I felt like if I wait for 2 more years, I might not be able to have the guts to do that. So I want to do that while I can still afford risk. So I made the jump. I applied for it and got the visa and got a permanent residency when I moved over. And then at the first, I thought it's going to be a different country than the States, and it turned out it's very similar, just like in my research. And then later on, the longer I stayed in Canada, the more I started to realize it's actually most likely a better country, just like they say. But yeah, when you walk on the street and you see people passing you and you see the faces on advertisement boards and you go to work, you see the people you work with, you realize what a diverse country this is. It's like, it's silly to talk about it. It's just like it's silly to talk about how you need to breathe air. I think I'm still not there yet. Personally speaking, my American dream is being able to work in a AAA company, and I'm still not even in a game company yet. But I think this time in Canada, with the permanent residency, I don't have to worry about losing my job and then have to go back to China. I can just stay here, and I'm going to try my best to work towards it. And I think I have a better opportunity in Canada.